Locating prospects. Gosh, there's so many ways to do that. How many of you have been to guerrilla marketing? This event's a junker event. The MOS is a pretty house event. Guerrilla marketing is the machine that drives the customers into those two events. Anyway, there's a whole lot more in that system than you're going to need or use. So let's talk about now how we can get some junkers in your life without having too much of a marketing knowledge. There's actually quite a few ways, but let me give you the ways I think you ought to use. First way, some people say, well, I think I need to go home and run an ad. Run an ad. Well, I don't agree with that. And I'll tell you why I don't agree with it. Because when you run an ad, what are you going to get? Mostly pretties or mostly uglies? Mostly pretties. And if you don't know what to do with those pretties, what good does it do you to run the ad to get them? Where are they going to go? Where are those leads going to go? In the trash can. So do you really need to go and spend several $100s to run leads so you can throw them in a trash can? No. 2, can you call ads? Well, you can. Where are you going to call ads from? Newspaper. How many ads do you think you're going to call in the newspaper and listen to those unmotivated sellers before you're going to get absolutely turned off? Huh? Calling ads is cool once you learn what the questions to ask and then what to do with them. Isn't it true that you got to learn the exit strategy so you'll know how to get into the entrance? Say yes, Ron. All right. Well, the exit strategy in junker business is a lot easier than the exit strategies in a pretty house because there's less of them and they're easy to understand. Although there really aren't that many of them totally. But calling ads in the newspaper is really focused more on the pretty house business. And in fact, we got a system set up now where you don't even have to do it. We got an outside telemarketing company that'll call the ads for you, ask them 25 questions that I wrote, and charge you $11 per script to do it for you. $11 to call and get 25 questions answered to people who know and have a house for sale and advertise. This is going to be automatic pilot pretty soon, I'm telling you. You're going to go home, plop your butt down, watch Ally McBeal, hold your hand out, and checks are going to fall in them. Number 3, however, is something you should do, and that's using realtors for the junker business only. However, I'm going to be the first to tell you, if you go out here and try to get realtors to work with you to help you find junkers, you have got a tough road to hoe. Because what are realtors going to tell you when you go in their office and unannounced and you say, I'm looking for some junkers. Can you help me find some? We don't have any junkers here. Banks fix them all up. You've been watching that Carlton, what's his name, on television? You've been to one of them seminars, haven't you? Now, do these realtors really mean this? Yes, they do. They certainly do. They really believe this crap. Why? Because they're not in the junker business. They don't list junkers. They list pretty houses. They chauffeur families around with screaming kids in the back seat, showing them houses they can't qualify for when they do want them. Realtors, by and large, spend most of their time chasing dead ends and wasting their time. Now, the really good realtors have figured that out. That's not the way. The really high-producing realtors have gotten good at their craft, and they've mastered it, and they've learned that the less they do, the more they make. But are they the majority or the minority? They're the minority, just like really good people in any business. In fact, are you guys going to be the minority in this business? Oh, you bet. For every one of you, there's 1,000 out there that refuse to pay the price to get the education the easy way. For every one of you, there's 1,000 out there that are working the greater fool theory every day of their life. They don't have a clue. They're going to the school of hard knocks. They're doing all this stupid stuff. And some of you already graduated from that school, haven't you? You have. You really have. And because you don't have a system or a coherent plan, you're just grasping for straws like I did and like most of my predecessors did. But you don't have to do that anymore. There's a system here. And one of the first things that you need to learn about this system is that realtors are a very, very valid tool for you to use in our world, but they also can be the biggest dream stealers on the planet if you get to the wrong realtors. And if you walk into a real estate office, you're going to be very lucky to get to the right realtors. So in a minute I'll tell you how to get to the right realtors. But then I will also tell you that if your life and your business revolves around realtors, you're going to have probably 50% at best chance of success. Realtors are an added benefit. You cannot rely on them. You cannot depend on them, and you cannot make them produce your revenue. They will do all of that, but only if they're the right realtors, and you need to have income coming in that don't have anything to do with listed properties while you're working that in. All right, the ant farm. That's nothing more. In fact, there's a whole article in here on it. There's an article in both of your courses on it. There's a step-by-step process on it. Basically, it's this simple. Either you or your aunt, A-N-T, aunt, someone you put in that you have go in their car with their camera, go around driving around looking for ugly vacant houses. Now, the good news about ugly houses is that they're easy to spot, aren't they? Because they're ugly. Because you know that lease option deal this gentleman back here made $70,000 on? He could drive up and down the street and look at that house and he wouldn't have a clue there was a deal there, would he? Pretty house, don't need any work. The deal there is not in the house, it was in the seller's needs, wasn't it? Hello? In other words, he couldn't look at that house and pre-screen that prospect, could he? But you can. You can look at ugly houses and pre-screen them real quick. At least you can pre-screen the houses. Then you have to pre-screen the seller to see if they want to sell and if they're on the same level or planet that you are. And in a series of questions, we'll get to that. So first we find the ugly houses by driving around looking for ugly houses. Now, in the beginning, you may want to do that. But as fast as humanly possible, you need to get ants doing that for you. I call them ants because I look at them as my little ants. I'm the king ant in my case. I send a bunch of little ants out there finding me little morsels and bringing them back to me. And I pay them very simply. I pay them $10 a lead. But to get that $10, they must take me a photograph. And I don't mean no Polaroid. I don't want Polaroids. Polaroids take ugly, narrow pictures. Bulky. Nowadays, if an ant can afford it, they would be using a digital camera. Because they don't have to get them developed. They go take pictures with a digital camera and plug it in their computer and spit out, and they're good photographs. So they don't have hardly any cost involved. If not, they can go get them a little old cheap 35 millimeter camera and go get the film developed. It's cheaper to do that than it is to do the Polaroids anyway. I don't want Polaroid pictures. I want a picture of the front and the rear of the house if it's vacant and ugly. And I want it attached to the sheet you have on page.
The sheet Ron refers to here is called the Ugly Houses Handyman Special Property Inspection Summary Sheet.
And you have some more in the back, I think. Yes, you do. Go home, make a bunch of copies. Nope. What you need to do is go home and stick that form in your computer and change it first. Because obviously you can do a better job of that form. Right? The photographs should be attached to that form, front and back of the house. And in fact, it's a good idea if you get them to take a picture of each neighbor while you're at it so you'll know what's on both sides of the house. Remember, all you see is these photographs if you're going to send ants into the field. And if you're not going to send ants and you're going to go be your own ant, should you do the same thing? Yes, because folks, 60 to 70% of your deals are not going to come from your first offer. You're going to play the game a while. This is a monopoly we're playing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months later, you're going to be buying the same house, and you're going to forget what they look like. You need these photographs. As cheap as photographs are, you need to compile the dossier on the property the first time you look at it so you don't have to go back until you got a seller who's very, very serious and about to or has accepted your offer. And if you don't, I promise you, you'll be going to the same house 4 or 5 times. How do you think I know this? Because I did not used to do this. I forget I've been there and I get out in front of the house. I've been to this dumb house 4 times now. Those photographs are worth their weight in gold to you. You'll make decisions based on those once you can learn a few basics. Now, if I send the ant out there and bring them back, I pay them $10 a pop. Now, if you're a brand new beginner, that's a little scary because, man, they could bring you back 20 or 30 leads, couldn't they? And you have to write a check for $200 or $300, wouldn't you? Well, somehow that bothers you, but running an ad in the newspaper for $400 a month doesn't bother you. Here I'm sitting here with 20 to 30 ugly vacant houses with photographs of the front and the rear. There aren't any better prospects for the ugly house business, are there? And it cost me $200 or $300, so what? Pay the ants or be your own ant. But I will tell you right now, if you're going to be your own ant, your career of driving around looking for ugly houses is short-lived because you're soon going to talk yourself out of it. And the minute you talk yourself out of bringing in these leads, what happens to your machine? It dies. Dies. So as quick as you can, you get other people out. Who do you hire anyway? Well, I say hire. Are these people on your payroll? No way. In fact, they use their car, they use their camera, they use their film. They cost you not one red cent until they bring you the leads. And then only if the leads they bring you meet the criteria you gave them from the beginning, do you pay them. If they bring you a picture of a pretty house that's got a Fizbo sign in the front yard, I didn't tell you to bring me that. I won't pay for that one. Pay them for what you tell them. And also, you need to tell them what areas not to go into. You send these ants into the war zone, you're going to be writing big checks. Why? Every other house is ugly and vacant. Okay? I mean, they can take a trip up and down 4 or 5 blocks, come back with 50 houses like that, which is not bad if that's what you want. But if you send them in the war zone, you might want to pay them a little less. And I had one ant go out one time. He stood at the end of the block, and there were 6 houses in a row boarded up. He took a picture of all 6 of them, and one time he says, "Here you go, you owe me $60." No, I don't think so. If you drive around in the low-income areas, now listen, if you're going to drive around, let's say you live in Atlanta, and you're going to cruise through Dunwoody, how long is it going to take you to bring in a pile of prospects that are ugly and vacant? 4 or 5 years? Yes. But if you're going to cruise around here and go through the lower price markets, you'll be out there minutes before your pile starts growing. You'll be out there a couple hours, you're going to have a pile this deep. It's true. You're not going to have trouble spotting these ugly houses. You're going to miss some, but you're not going to have trouble spotting them. The grass is high, paint's peeling, yard full of junk. Some of them you can see right through the windows and see right into the backyard. There are no drapes up to the windows. They're there. They're just not hard to spot. Rotten wood, nasty looking roof, overgrown shrubs. Those are my favorite. When you can barely see the house because the place is overgrown, so overgrown you can barely get into it. And grass this deep. Easy to spot. Now some of them are actually semi-maintained. They're a little harder to spot, but they're not that hard. So folks, if you drive around just a couple hours, let's see, you're going to get out of here, you're staying for Robin, right? That means you're going to get out of here Monday night. If you live in Atlanta, you can do this on your way home. So bring a camera. And if you don't live in Atlanta, you can do it as soon as you get home. You got enough daylight when you get off of work to go out and drive around and bring back a pile this deep. Now, I will caution you that a pile of prospects on your desk this deep will not make you a dime until you do something with the prospects. In fact, a pile of prospects this deep will lead to pure frustration if you don't process them. Remember the 5 steps? Well, frankly, number 1's the easiest of the 5. It's the easiest of the 5. Any moron can drive around and find some ugly houses. You could even send your kids to do that, couldn't you? Or your parents, or anybody you know who could use some extra dollars. You know how long it's going to take your ants to bring you 20 prospects? I'm telling you right now. If they're actually out there driving up and down the streets, that's all they just drive up and down looking for prospects. I did that with my son-in-law not too long ago. In 2 hours, found 27 ugly vacant houses in one subdivision. One little subdivision. Told him he owes me $270. And you know, I drive a Mercedes and I can see them ugly houses right through the Mercedes windows just as easy as you can through them Toyota windows. Okay. Number 1. There's 3 kinds of houses that your ants or you're going to bring back. First batch are going to be listed, aren't they? Aren't they? I don't want you making up anything. Just use my script. Because if they bring you listed houses, where are you going to get the number from? The number's on the sign, isn't it? in front of the house? The listing agent is right on the sign, aren't they? Hello?
Yes.
You guys awake? Okay. The listing agent's right there. Right in the picture even. And make your aunt write down the phone number on that sheet anyway. Now when you give them that sheet, they need to write down the address, and they need to write down anything that's on there that they can fill out. If you look at that sheet on page 20, I think it was, the aunt is not going to fill out most of it. The aunt's only going to fill out what's in that big block there in the middle. All they got to do is go down there and check what they see. Does it need a roof? Does it need carpet? Now they're not going to be able to even complete that to make any sense, but when you get the photographs in your hand, are you going to be able to look at the house and see whether it's a lot of repairs, little repairs, or whatever? Yes. Incidentally, are you going to be able to tell whether it's got central heat and air? How? Why not? If it don't have a box sitting in the backyard, it don't have central heat and air. Is that going to be in the photograph? It does. Yeah. The photographs are a lot more important to you than that sheet you're looking at. Now you call a realtor and you use this script. Now since I wrote this script, I pretty much know what it says, so I'm not going to read it word for word. And do you have to know it word for word? No. First thing you do is you call a realtor and say, listen, I see you got a house listed over at 1233 Maple Street. It looks like the kind of house I buy. I'm a very serious real estate entrepreneur. I pay all cash. I close rather quickly. I almost never put any contingencies in my agreements. And I buy 4 or 5 houses like that one per month. Would you fax me the printout so I can get you an offer in on it the next day or so? Now what's the realtor going to say? What's your fax number? Right? Now, is this assuming you have a fax? Now, if you don't have a fax number, what should we do about this? Yes, indeedy. Folks, you're not going to run a business without a fax machine. Forget it. efax.com, where you can pull your fax right off of the web. Zero. It don't cost anything. You guys probably like that price. Huh? And if you're not happy with their service, they'll give you a triple refund. efax.com. The way I understand that works, they give you your own fax number. You give it out to the public. The public faxes to that fax number. They don't even know that they're faxing it to the web. And then it comes right in on the web. Now, that's a cheap way to do it, isn't it? Now, of course, that's not going to work for me, because this is assuming that I've got a computer and that I'm going to turn it on. I do have a computer, actually. It's pretty sitting there. But I just don't. I just can't make myself. I mean, I just never run out of things that I would think I could do with that time that would be more productive, at least for me, than to sit in front of that box. But hey, I know I'm a dinosaur. Okay. So, you call them and you tell them to fax you the printout on that property. Do you already have a property to work on right there for sure? Now, what's this house look like? It's ugly, isn't it? How do we know? We got photographs in our hands of it. It's ugly. Now, before you hang up, you take a look at the script there. Do you have any more? Could you fax me some more? Now, at this point, they might try to pre-screen you. Aren't realtors try to pre-screen you to see if you got the money or can you close? Huh? That's normal. That's natural. And that is entirely up to how you handle it. I've given you a script right there to handle it with. I just point blank tell them. And you know, this is all in the, this is an individual situation here. If you talk weak, if you sound weak, if you sound unsure of yourself, can you blame them for wanting to know if you're real? No way. No way. I can't think the last time a realtor's tried to pre-screen me. And that's not because they know me. They don't know that I'm a legend. Modest too, folks. Very, very modest. They don't know that. It's just the words that come out of your mouth. Some of you students that have been around for a while in the room will understand what I'm talking about, won't you? After a while, the words that come out of your mouth and your attitude determines the response people come back at you with, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's you. If you sound weak, you feel weak, and you're going to feel weak in your beginning days, aren't you? Aren't you? Yes. So you just got to dazzle them with your footwork. Fake it till you make it. And that don't mean I got to lie to them. Don't mean I got to lie to them. So when a realtor says, well, before I work with you, I need some evidence, I need some proof of funds, I will say, Mary, the money is not a problem. Finding the houses are a problem. You fix your end, and I'll take care of my end. The funds are not an issue. Now that in itself will probably, if done properly, fix the problem. If it doesn't, if they persist, I will simply come back to them and say, you prove you can find me some junkers and I'll prove to you that I got the money. Is that fair? Are you going to live up to your end? You're not going to have problems finding realtors that'll do the work for you if you've convinced them that you're going to close. Now, do you guys have an endless supply of money to buy junkers with? I got 3 yeses. You're still thinking about that one, aren't you? If I'm wholesaling a property, do I have an endless supply of money? Yes, because I have an endless supply of buyers. If I'm going to use private money to fund the properties, do I have an endless supply of money? Yes, I do. If I got a pocket full of credit cards with cash available on them, do I have well, not endless, but do I have a supply of money? Yes, I do. If you're sitting in this room and you're broke, this is going to be harder to get up here than if you're not. Isn't it? Isn't it? But if you do what I've got in this system right here, and you do go out and you wholesale and you find a buyer, and you pick up your first check, will the second deal be a lot easier for you to internalize than the first deal? Yes? And then will the third be easier than the second? Well, why don't you just ask some of the folks sitting in the room here who had to go through the same process? If I'm calling on listed houses, can these realtors tell me there are no junkers in this town if they're ugly? No. Can you see that if I make a call to a realtor that's got an ugly house listed, I'm probably going to be very receptive to finding some more ugly houses like the one that got listed? If I'm dealing with realtors who have pretty houses listed, they're not on the same planet. And they'll turn off very quickly. And in the process, you're also going to find the realtors who have the bank repossessions listed, because there's only a handful of them in every city. And if this house is ugly, and it happens to be a bank repo, you probably already found one of them. So you've got an endless supply there if you build a relationship going in. Now, I'm not going to tell you that every realtor you call is going to be a relationship. In fact, some of them you don't even want to build a relationship with. If I got 20 prospects, I'll bet you at least 7 of them are going to be listed, maybe more. Maybe more. If I call one, do I have at least one property to work on? Yes, they fax you over the printout, and then you take the rest of the stuff you're going to learn today and you put it into action, and you make them an offer, or not. And now I got to do what? Call 6 more realtors. Folks, I got 7 realtors sending me deals. 7. Plus I got 7 houses to make an offer on if I never do another thing. But the key here is I found the ugly houses first and then backed into the ugly realtors. Instead of trying to make pretty house realtors ugly house realtors. Some of those could turn into lifelong relationships if you do what you say. Are you going to say, I'm going to write a check for this house? No, you say, I'm going to buy this house and pay cash. If you're wholesaling it, will you be buying it, paying cash? Yes. Where's the cash coming from? Your buyer. If you're getting a private loan on it, will you be buying it, paying cash? Yes. If you're pulling out a credit card, will you be buying it, paying cash? Yes. All right, number 2, FSBOs. What's that stand for? Sale by owner. Now these are FSBOs with a sign in the front yard. For sale by owner sign. You get about 3 of them or so. Uglier the house and the uglier the sign, the better the deal. Ugly signs equal good deals. That's a formula. And if they're cardboard signs with spray paint on them, they're my favorite. If they say for sale by owner, with a silver spray paint, that's good. Because I've learned that those lead to good deals. They really do. It's the nature of the beast. Unsophisticated sellers who won't even go to Walmart and spend $1.69 to get a sign. They're my kind of people. And number 3 are the no signs, which are absolutely the best deals there are out there. Ugly vacant houses with no signs in the front yard are not on the market, are they? And if they're not on the market, then you don't have any competition looking for them. And in fact, no one knows they're for sale, including the sellers, till you call them. Because if they were for sale, they have a sign on them, wouldn't they? Well, I'll tell you right now that the best deals that I've ever done in the junker business were right there. And there's a good reason for that. And folks, here is a very simple principle in the real estate business that some people just don't understand. The easier the property is to find, the more it costs. The more readily available the properties are to the public, the more they cost. Isn't that why FHA and VA repos are miserable to get a decent deal with in most cities? Gosh, they're right there in the newspaper. They publish them. All the greater fools are out there trying to buy them. And they'll pay way too much, and then FHA and VA will finance them. And even throw in some repair money for them. You can't compete with that. Except on the extremely ugly ones that the owner-occupant type or the greater fool investors haven't bought. Isn't it true that if a property is listed in the MLS system, it's easy for people to find? Say yes, Ron. Yes, Ron. You're going to have competition here. So expect it. Ask Robin, she'll tell you. She has the MLS system in her office. She works it daily just to make sure she stays ahead of the rest of the pack. However, you have little or no competition there. Now there's an upside and a downside. Upside is hard to find, better deal. Downside is hard to find, more work. This is why everybody gravitates to this and to the VAs and the FHAs. They don't have to work too hard. They don't have to miss too many episodes of Alley. And get the realtors to go out there and do most of the work for them. But what they don't realize is they're going to pay more for that luxury. Why? Because when they're easy to find, it raises the price, but not more importantly than that, this buffer, called an agent, this buffer determines the market value of the property, even if it's as is, and they stand between you and the seller, and they're going to guide the marketplace. They're not going to let you steal this thing for ridiculously low prices that you can here with no buffer in the middle. Now, does that mean that I can't do business with realtors? Not at all. But it does mean that I better have something else going for me besides the listed property. Hey, if you can buy listed properties, and you sure can, under the terms that we're going to discuss here, you should be doing it. You absolutely should be doing it. But you should also be working this market. See, this, you have the law of leverage working for you. The realtors do most of the work. All you do is send your ants out there, go out there, find the properties, go out and look at them, and make an offer, and you're done. You're done until the offer gets accepted or countered, or it's made later. Here, you got to find the owners and work with them one-on-one. So you don't have the law of leverage, but you don't have the buffer in the middle. You should be working the whole system, not just part of the system. Most people avoid realtors like the plague that are in this business. They just don't know. I could make $1 million a year in a fair-sized city with nothing but listed houses. And so could you. All right. Well, what about these ones here? They're hard to find, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Some of them you can find easy. Some of them you can't find at all. And some of them you can't find without a lot of work. is the owner's name of every house in your city on public record? Yes. Sometimes those records are a little behind, but it's there. Somebody's getting a tax bill. Even if it's coming back, they're sending it somewhere. So finding the owner's name is a matter of looking it up or getting somebody else to look it up. And you can go right on the internet and do it. Or you get a realtor to do it. Or you get somebody else to do it. If I go, you old guys in the room and old gals, if you're a dinosaur like me, just get your 6-year-old kid to do it for you. They can work that computer. Don't worry about it. Maybe 10 years old, huh? Soon 6. All right. So, you got the owner's name, you got the owner's address. Now what are you going to do? Well, no, I got the owner's name and I got the owner's address. I don't need to, I found them. I found them. Now all I got to do is get to them. Now if I can get their phone number, would that be of value to me? Would it, you think? Okay, well how do we go about doing that? Well, why 411? Oh, certainly it couldn't be that easy. You mean we could pick up the phone, call 411? Oh man, but that would cost us $0.25. Wouldn't it? Folks, if anybody has got the phone number, it's information. If they don't have it, you won't find it. Because it's unlisted. And information is updated daily. Forget those CD-ROMs you can buy with everybody's phone number. Man, they're crap. By the time you buy them, they're outdated. They're worthless. Call information. That's my first bet. Now, you know when you dial 411, you can get an information in California from Florida. They ask you now, what state? What city? But there are other ways you can get it. We can go back to this computer thing, can't we? You guys start giving me a list of computer sites that you can get this from. Anywho.com, 5551212.com, nox.com. What else? Infospace. Space.com and infoseek.com. Yahoo what? .com? I don't think so. Okay. All right, just yahoo.com. All right. In fact, I think they got one called locator.com. Not sure. Is that enough? See, you can get on these sites, you can plug in a name, especially if you got the address they used to live at, and up comes their phone number if it's available. You can plug in a phone number, and up comes a name. You can plug in an address, and up comes a name and a phone number if you ask for it. Never been easier. Never, ever been easier than it is right now. Got them?
What's the one next to the bottom?
I don't know. Infoseek.com. Now, if I find them, and if I find their phone number, now what? Call them. Oh my God, no, they might answer. Somebody might be on the other end of the phone. What do I say? Well, we'll get to that when we talk about constructing and presenting offers. Obviously, the first thing I want you to do is call them, ladies and gentlemen, because there's nothing you can do better than that. Now, some of them will succeed, some of them you'll fail. If you can't get a hold of them, let's say they got an unlisted number. Unlisted number, I want you to send them a letter. I want you to send them a letter. Tell them, how many of you got my book, Fast Cash with Quick Turn Real Estate? There's a letter in there. There's a letter in the Guerrilla Marketing Package as well. Send them a letter. Tell them you want to buy a house. In fact, if you're going to send them a letter, there's a few tips. Tip A, you should personalize the letter. In other words, put their name and their address on it. Tip B, you should mention the address of the property in the letter. The key is how you send the letter. You drop it in an envelope with a stamp on it and put a sticky label on it. Nope, that's the absolute worst thing you can do. You want it to go in the trash, just put a label on it. Instant junk mail, instant trash. Do you know the three biggest problems a direct mail company has? A, getting it delivered. B, getting it opened. C, getting it read. Any of you ever got anything from us that was hand addressed with a stamp on it and you didn't know who it was from? Huh? Well, if you didn't, you will. Why? We have to trick you into opening the envelope. Yeah. You think it comes from your grandmother. It's just an age-old problem in direct mail. Now, I'm going to suggest you do this, and I know you're not going to do it, but hey, at least I've done my part. When you send this letter, you send it in a priority mail envelope, not in a regular envelope. It's going to cost $3.20, isn't it? Plus the cost of copying a letter. And if I were you, I'd put a business reply envelope in it. In other words, an envelope addressed back to you. And on the letter you send them, you put a reply mechanism so that they can just write in there. And it says something like, yes, I'm interested in selling my house. I'm asking blank. That's all you need to know. Now, of course, their name and address and their phone number. Okay? In case this thing got to them and it's different. You always want to give people a mechanism to reply by mail, ladies and gentlemen, because calling you may scare them. So you want to give them the option of calling you. You also want to give them the option of mailing to you. I'm telling you to do this. Do not violate my rules. I have spent millions of dollars learning and understanding marketing. It is not for you to change the rules because you don't see that they're going to work. Do what I ask you to do. Put a reply mechanism in there. You'll be amazed that you're going to get some of them in the mail. And put a phone number in case they want to call you. Now when you get the reply back, then you call them. You can get a postcard and stick it in there and do the same thing if you wish. I would not put a postage stamp on the envelope. I wouldn't. Make them do that. And you don't waste another 33 cents for every one you send out. Now, if you're smart and you begin to learn a little bit about marketing, you'll put something else in there that generates credibility. Whatever you can think of. Testimonial letters is the absolute best thing you can include when you get some. Testimonial letters from other people you've helped. A letter from your bank telling them you actually have an account. It's about all they can tell them. Yep, she's a good person. A letter from your minister. I've known this person all my life. They've attended church regularly. They tithe on a regular basis. A letter from your accountant. A letter from your attorney. How about evidence that you belong to the Better Business Bureau? That gets them. I have no idea why that impresses people, but it does. Anything like that. Give them some reason to respond. Now, you send it priority mail. You get it. You're going to get a reply back if you're going to very quickly. Has any of you ever got a priority mail or a FedEx package and let it lay around for a day or two before you open it? What do? You rip that thing open immediately, don't you? Making a difference. What you're doing, you rip it open immediately. Isn't that the point? You rip it open because it has a high perceived value. Somebody spent a lot of money to get it to you. It must be urgent. It's very important. I better find out what it is. And so you've conquered getting it open and you've conquered getting it delivered. If it doesn't get delivered, it's coming back. You'll know that's not their address. Then you move them over to the next column. And also, you know it got read immediately. So if they're going to respond, they'll respond immediately. And if they respond, then you follow up with a phone call. Now, if they don't respond, what do? Well, you do like your competition would do. You quit. Because that's the easiest thing to do. If that thing got delivered, ladies and gentlemen, those people are going to get mail from me until they die. Or until the house is bulldozed. Or until I see somebody rehabbing it, which means somebody else has bought it and beat me to it somehow. Or until I just don't feel like messing with it anymore. I'm going to set it up on automatic pilot systems where I'm going to send them something every 15 days until I hear from them. Even if they just call me and tell me not to send them any more mail. At least I found them. And I'll say, listen, the house is sitting there vacant. I'll pay cash for it. Where you been? I've been waiting for you to call. And I don't want to sell it. Don't send me any more mail. So So what are you going to do then? Send them another letter. And keep sending them a letter until they finally get to the point to where time and circumstances has changed their mind. As it will with all sellers, sooner or later. You really want to get impressive? If these people in your same city have it delivered by messenger, will that get their attention? Is that not what you're trying to do? Okay. What about the ones you can't find? If you can't find them, isn't it true that no one else can either? If you can't find them, aren't these the absolute best deals on the board? If you can't find them, are these people who could care less about these properties? Are these the people you need to be finding? So how do you find missing people? You hire somebody who is in business to find missing people. And who's that? Skip Tracer. Somebody with a PI license, private investigator license. They have access to databases that you can't get into without that license. I promise you, if you give a Skip Tracer 10 names and the address they used to live at, which was this house, that within a few minutes, they will have located 65% of those people for you from their desk by punching keys. They have the same databases the United States government has. And if you guys think you got any secrets, you're kidding yourself. Every move you make goes in somebody's database. Did you know that? Did you know when you checked into this hotel, you were in somebody's database? Every time you do something or make a move in this country, folks, you're leaving a trail. And most of the things you do, you don't have any idea that somebody's tracking you or could track you. You cannot hide in this country unless you're intentionally on the run and you know what not to do while you're running. Every move you make puts you in somebody's database. And the same thing is true for these people you're trying to find. They can't hide. Private investigator will find them. They'll find 65% of them, I promise you, within 15 minutes after starting. Now, it'll take them a day or two to get you the information back so they can justify their little fee, but they'll find them very quickly. I know, because I teamed up with a couple of them, and we were going to do something, and they told me, they gave me the real skinny on this stuff. Now, it costs them. They have to go online, and their online services are quite expensive, but not that expensive. It's not like they're paying 10 cents a minute to go. They're not. I mean, every single search that they do could cost them $1 or $2 or $3 per search. Your phone book is full of them. The internet's full of them. They're advertising on television. There's one out there called USA Search. Now, I know they get more than $15. If you pay $25 or $30 to find somebody, folks, knowing that you're only going to find 65% of them, and knowing you're not going to buy all those houses, let's look at the logistics here. Let's do a little simple math, can we? I don't know why people have such a hard time seeing this. If you don't understand marketing, here's what you see. God, I paid $10 to get the lead, and now I got to pay another $25 to find them, and I don't even know if I can buy the house. That's $35 I'm wasting. Oh, and then I got to send them $3.20 package on top of that. Give me a break. Got to be an easier way to make money than this. There is. You can get on there and be your own private investigator. That's profitable, isn't it? Learn how to find these people yourself. That's good. Then you can collect that $15 instead of that $15,000. Maybe you guys should get into the private investigator business. You could save those pennies while you're walking over the dollars. But isn't that the very first thing you're going to want to do? Huh? Man. I think I'll spend my 2 hours trying to find these people so I don't have to pay that guy that $25. Just for the heck of it, let's look at the numbers. Let's say I got 20 prospects and it cost me $10 each. I got $200, don't I? So far out? Alright. Now I give them all. No, I don't give them all. I give 10 of them to a private investigator and I pay him $25. How much is that? $250. Okay. And, before that, let's say I've sent out 10 more packages just for the heck of it, times, $4 each. I got 40 more bucks in that. Because 10 of them I had, they're listed and they have physical signs on them, so I don't need to send them out a package. Alright? Now how much I got in this deal so far? $490, right? Okay. Now all those 20 leads, I gave 10 of them to the private investigator. He only finds 6. Remember? 6 out of 10. Okay? So he finds 6. Now out of all those 6 I gave the private investigator, and out of all the other 10 that were listed with realtors and had FSBO signs on them, I only do one stinking little deal. And I only net $5,000 on that deal. Let's see, 5,000 minus 490. See, that'd be $4,510 profit. Wouldn't it? And that, because I wholesale that deal. Now, how many of you would give me $490 if I gave you back $4,500? Oh, okay. Well, let's say Ron's full of it. And I have to do 40 of these dumb things, and I have to spend twice as much money. How many of you give me $1,000 for $5,000? Okay, well, this class is smarter than I thought. The last class wouldn't do it, so. Do you understand the logistics here, folks? You got to spend a few pennies to make a few dollars. And what I absolutely do not want you to do is be a private investigator. And in fact, I don't even want you to be your own aunt, if there's any other way. Because there's a big problem with you being a private investigator and you being your own aunt. While you're doing all that grunt work, you're not getting offers made. And if you're not getting offers made, you're not making any money. And you're wondering why not. And the answer is, you chose to work for the dime instead of for the dollar. And there's no other excuse. Now you want to know how I really feel? Okay. Have you got enough there to keep you busy locating all the prospects you can handle? How much money do you got to spend on cranking up that buying machine? Almost none. Almost none. How much money does it cost you to drive around, look for some listed properties, and make offers through the realtors? Tank of gas. Tank of gas. But you know what? I just know. You'll drive around and you'll make some offers through the realtors. You will. You really will. And you'll call some FSBO signs. But when it gets down here to the nitty gritty, the part you got to do the part to separate you from all the whiners and the whimpers. The first time you meet a little resistance, what are you going to do? You're going to want to back off, and you're going to want to take the easy route. Wealthy people do what they got to do, not what's convenient. Okay, pre-screening your prospects. In our world right now, what's the first thing we're looking for as far as the house goes? Ugly. Probably vacant, folks. Most of the prospects are going to be vacant, but please understand that is not mandatory. It is not mandatory. In fact, I bought a lot of houses from landlords who didn't want to deal with their tenants. And the reason they're selling, house probably in poor shape, but they just don't want to put their tenant out. Sometimes their tenants happen to be their relatives. That's the fun part. And I bought a house one time with a motorcycle gang living in it. Now you can understand why the landlord had a little anxiety about putting them out. Wouldn't you? I didn't. See, I never went to the house. I bought the house in a land trust. The people in it never knew I existed, because there's no way I'm going to the door and say, pay my rent or else. Pay my rent or I'll hurt you. Yeah, right. Here's how I handled it. I bought the house. Then I went down, I saw my attorney. I said, hey, there's a motorcycle gang living in the house. Here are their names. They're now your problem. Get them out. Send me a bill. And so he filed eviction on them. And then when they were out, then I took possession of the house. Now, why couldn't the owner have done that? Could have. They didn't know any better. Instead, they made this house become their lifelong problem. And I gave them their life back by buying their house. Of course I bought it cheap. If I have to fix a problem, I'm going to buy it cheap. Sometimes you can buy houses that are not in bad shape at all dirt cheap, because the landlords don't want to deal with the tenants, especially if they're their children. I bought numerous houses and evicted their kids out of them. And they tell me when I buy them, you evict them. I just don't want to. I said, no, don't worry, I will. I have no problem. So I'm putting them out of the house. And they say, I just can't do it. I said, okay, well, I can. I can. So vacant is better, but don't eliminate the occupied ones. You don't take pictures of the back of a house with somebody in it. That would be a bad move. Tell your ants, do not go in backyard if it's occupied. You don't want dead ants. Probably needs a lot of work, but also that's not mandatory. Once you get into the business, you will find houses that don't need a lot of work at deeply discounted wholesale prices. We call those bonuses. Those are bonuses. Those are not the normal, they're bonuses. Asking price, we're going to go into the formula in a minute. Not located in a war zone. And of course, that's not, I'm telling you, I made a lot of money in the war zone. But if you do, you need to be in there with war zone tactics, and you need to clearly understand you got to buy them dirt cheap in the war zone so you can sell them cheap. In the pretty house business, we can buy them at 100% of their value and make a ton of money. But we're not going to pay cash for them. For the most part, we're going to pay instant cash or short-term delayed cash. And price is king because they're ugly. But in the other world, price is not king. Price is not the focus. And we don't want little bitty old boxes, folks. In fact, if I were you, I would not buy a house less than 850 square feet. I just wouldn't. It's going to be a nightmare to sell, even wholesale. And frankly, if I were you, I would look for them bigger than that. Now, I have bought a ton of 850 square foot houses. Ton of them. A ton of them. But I'm not telling you I had an easy time getting rid of any of them. They all went. But here's a real simple rule for the most part until you get to the other extreme. The bigger, the better. Unless you're talking about a 5,000 square foot house in a 1,500 square foot neighborhood. The people like space. And I don't want to scare you away now. That does not mean you can't deal in 1,000 square foot houses, because in reality, 1,000 square foot houses is where you're going to be dealing most in the single story product. And in a two-story product, you're going to be dealing between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet for the most part. And some of you live in areas where the two-story product is the normal product. That's fine, like Cincinnati. Or a lot of your northern cities, mostly two-story houses, but there's still one-story houses there you can work on. I prefer the one-story. And I will not, I'm not saying I will not, I don't like renovating two-story houses, but I have done a ton. In fact, I got two right now. But I don't like it. Why? A lot more stuff to fix. A lot more walls and floors and ceilings to cover. A lot more can go wrong. Those one-story ranch houses are my favorite target by far. I have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And when you got a one-story, 1,200 square foot house, there's only so much work it can need. And when we get into estimating repairs, it's going to flabbergast you how easy that really is. But the bigger that house is, then the harder that becomes for you. But if I'm wholesaling, I really don't care what size it is. But those little teeny-weensy boxes are going to create havoc in your life. They're hard to move. For obvious reasons. People want enough room to move around in those houses. So, we're looking for ugly houses, vacant, a little bit of size to them, without getting crazy, and not located in the war zone. Is that a big, major request on my part? Shouldn't be hard to find, though, should it? Should it? Mm-mm. No. All right, we're going to construct some offers right now. The formula that you're about to learn, and that you should have heard already before getting here, took me 10 years to create. I created this formula. Because for 10 years I used the swag theory. Scientific wild-ass guess. PFA formula. That was my formula. Pluck from air. Which is what most of your investors out there are doing right now. Now, Sometimes that works good. After a while, your instincts get sharper and you know what to offer. But for the most part, that's a dangerous way to do business. I have paid too much for properties many times that I wouldn't have paid if I'd have known what I know here. This formula will serve you well, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't get away from it. The formula is the basics. It is the formula that you must keep in your brain when you're making offers on junkers. Pretty soon you'll be able to do it without a pencil or without a calculator. In fact, my goal tomorrow would be for you to be able to make offers on houses without a pen or a calculator by the end of the day. The goal for tomorrow is to try to keep you from getting tangled up into the minor details and keep you focused on the macro. For some of you, that's a bigger job than for others. Some of you are thinker brains. You're detail-oriented. You're analytical personalities. You want to dot every I and cross every T. Then you want to go back and check out what you just did to analyze it again, and when that's over, you want somebody else to analyze your analysis. Thinker brains take a long time to make a decision. They want all the facts. Thinker brains are going to be down on their knees measuring the carpet to see what size the room is so they can get the exact square footage. They're going to be up on the roof measuring the shingles, see how many squares of shingles are on the roof. While the thinker brains are doing all this analytical crap, us reptile brains will have made the offer, presented it, got to accept it, sold the house, got the check, spent the money before the thinker brains figure out what to pay. And you laugh. But it is true. It's called paralysis of analysis. And I'm going to work that out of you. If not this trip, maybe the next one. So one of us 7 people here are going to work that out of you sooner or later. Because tomorrow you're going to focus on the macro. And the troops that are going to be out there trying to teach you need to be focusing on you to focus on the macro. And they know that. They're going to try to keep you from getting so involved in the details you can't make a decision. I'm going to urge all of you, by the end of the day, I want you to be making offers on houses without adding up anything by a pen or a calculator. It's a challenge. Okay? But you're not getting away from my formula. I'm trying to get you away from the details that scare you so much. Especially when you find out how easy it's going to be for you to estimate repairs. How many of you are afraid of estimating repairs right now? Level with me. All right? We'll see if we can't fix that for you. It's so easy. But you thinker brains in the room are going to have to work on trying to speed it up a little bit so you can get the offers made. Because, folks, you can't steal in slow motion. You're going to lose some deals if you just can't get to the bottom line, can't get the offer made. Everybody in here, in this room right now who's done deals in this past year have lost deals because they didn't move quick enough. And that's especially true if they're listed in the MLS system. You just go ahead out there and analyze all these facts 2 weeks later and decide to present the offer, and you'll find out that house is long gone. For the most part. Now, I will tell you, after saying that, some of the best deals I've ever gotten are the houses have been in the MLS system for 4, 5, 6, 7 months. And I need to bring that up. Some people think the best time to make an offer on properties is as soon as it comes on the market. Well, that's not necessarily true. As soon as it comes on the market, especially if it's bank-owned, the banks want to play the game a while. They want the price to be up here, and they won't accept it until the market tells them they're not going to pay that, and then they move the price down. Sometimes the best deals are when they've been on market quite a while, and then time and circumstance changes their mind. All right, let's talk about constructing the offer first. The very first thing you must know before you can construct an offer is the market value of the property, the after-repaired value, the ARV. You don't know the ARV, you can't go any further. You can't eliminate the ARV and wing the rest. You must know the ARV. Do you need to know it exactly? No. Do you need to know it within, say, 5%? I would suggest it. 10% at least. At least have a clue what the ARV is. Now, you thinker brains, you're going to want an appraisal before you can be convinced the ARV is there. Not going to happen. And we don't get appraisals on properties we don't have contracts to buy anyway. We get a contract to buy, then we worry about all the rest. And folks, Let me tell you something, especially you thinker brains. It makes no difference if all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed on a property you can't buy. It won't do you any good to go get all the facts if the seller's not going to sell you the house. So our job is to quickly analyze the basic facts and make the offer, then see if we get interest. And then we'll start worrying about whether our assumptions are correct or not. But until we get interest, it doesn't matter, does it? Do you know, I read in a magazine not too long ago that the Fortune 100 corporate executives, they did a poll, and the poll said that on average, they have 30% of the facts available before they make a decision. Only 30% of the facts. That's what it takes to be the leader of a big company. You can't sit around and move in slow motion. You get enough of the facts to make a decision, and you get on with it. Now, I don't have anything against thinker brains. Don't get me wrong. We need them. They make up our accountants, they make up our engineers, and various other professions. And there are an awful lot of wealthy thinker brains out there. They are the think and grow rich slowly kind of people. In fact, they make up 10% of the population. And then us reptile brains make up 14% of the population. We are the get the heck out of my way, very fast thinking, moving, give me the facts briefly, don't spell out, I don't want any long drawn out explanation of anything. Just give me the facts, get out of the way so I can make a decision. That's us reptile brains. Us reptile brains are wrong a lot. But we're right more than we're wrong. And we know that the rights outweigh the wrongs. We also know that we want to move fast. We have very short attention spans. Us reptile brains. Don't we, reptile brains? Yes, we do. Okay? You also need to know that the very largest percentage of the wealth in this country is owned by reptile brains. I mean, could you see why? The people who make the most decisions tend to be the people who have the most money, because they can make the decisions. Now the rest of the population, 76% of them are mammal brains. Follow the herd mentality. But they are. Don't want to do anything abnormal. Don't want to do anything to stand out. Just whatever everybody else is doing, that's what I want to do. Those are mammal brains. Nothing wrong with mammal brains. If the news says it's right, it's right. Mammal brains need a little bit of information to make a decision, and they just flow through life. Now, am I insulting mammal brains? Nope. No, not at all. But it would pay you to be able to tell the difference, because when you're dealing with people, they're either a reptile brain, a thinker brain, or a mammal brain. And if you're a reptile brain trying to make an offer to a thinker brain, you better slow down, Bubba. You better slow way down. You better put it in slow gear and bring forth a lot more information and give them time to make a decision based on their pace and make them think they made the decision. And if you are a thinker brain trying to make an offer to a reptile brain, you better get it in gear. Because if you think a reptile brain is going to sit there and wait for that big old long explanation of something, it ain't going to happen. They want the basic facts and they want to get on with it. I want all of you to be making offers on houses tomorrow as if you're reptile brains, even if you're not. Because you need to get through that crap quickly and get to the bottom line offer and get it presented. You do not make a lot of money in real estate by making one offer a month. You do not make a lot of money in real estate by pounding the seller to try to make them motivated. You are to select prospects. Then you are to pre-screen the ones that seem to be the best. Then you are to get to the offer so you can really determine who you really want to work with. And that is only those sellers who want to work with you. And just because their house is ugly, that don't mean you're buying their house. Nor does it mean they want to sell their house. So folks, the only time you can possibly know if you're going to buy this house is if and when you make the offer. We're not going to spend the day tomorrow making you analytical experts. We're going to spend the day making you real estate entrepreneurs who can get out there and make offers while your competition is stifled in mediocrity and the details. And after a while, you won't even need to do half the stuff you're going to do tomorrow to make the offers on the same house. Folks, I don't need to see a house to make the offer. You show me a photograph of a house and I can tell you what the repair costs are. And I can tell you what I'll pay if I know they are. Amazing, isn't it? I'm a genius. Nope. I've just done it a few times. That's all. And you're going to learn very quickly that after a while, all them houses are going to look alike. And you know, that's the same everywhere I go in America. They look alike. They all have a roof and some walls, and a few of them have windows, and a couple of them even have kitchens and bathrooms. They all look alike. So we're going to be doing the same old till it gets boring. And the more of you do, the easier it gets. Okay. We'll do an example here. What price house we want to sell here? 80 grand? How about that? That's our R. Okay. How much do you want this house to cost to fix? 10? Okay, we're going to spend $10,000 on this house for repairs. Now, $10,000 worth of repairs that we will do after tomorrow when we really understand the true cost looks like what to the rest of the world? 20, 25, 30? You bet. You're going to be amazed at what you can do for a small amount of money. All right? So we have the repair cost. Next, we have to subtract the purchase cost. Now, that is not the cost of the property. That has nothing to do with what you're paying for the house and or the down payment. That has to do with purchase closing costs that you agree to pay, and only those you agree to pay. It's going to be rare you're going to buy a house, especially paying all cash, and pay all the closing costs. In fact, it would be extremely rare for me. The seller is going to eat most of the closing costs, if not all of them. But I want you to plug in 1% of your ARV, if you don't mind, for purchase closing cost, which is how much money? $800. Okay? I'm going to give you the algebraic formula. Then I'm going to give you the short form so you don't ever have to do the long form again. But you have to know how we got the long form done so that you can believe the short form. We're doing it the hard way, then we'll do it the easy way. 1% of the ARV. I'm going to put a percentage out here, and it's always going to be of the ARV for every one of our costs. What's next on our list? Holding cost. What does that mean? Well, incidentally, folks, if you were to get an appraisal on a property, would that be part of your purchase cost? Man, that eat up $300 to $800 right there. Now, let's go back a minute. Is this purchase cost going to be based on 80 grand? Well, the 1% is based on the 80, but am I going to pay 80 for this house? No, I hope not. I hope not. So it's not costing me $800 to buy a house for 80 grand. It's costing me $800 to buy a house for considerably less than that. And remember, it's only my share that I agreed to pay for. That should cover it most of the time. Second is holding cost, however. What does that consist of? Taxes, insurance, utilities. Not maintenance, that's in your repairs. I am going to do this assuming that I am the person rehabbing and selling the house, even if that is not my intention. If I'm wholesaling the property, should I think like a retailer? I'm looking at this through the retailer's eyeballs. I'm analyzing this like the retailer's going to analyze it. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can know what to offer the retailer, allowing him or her to make a good profit. I'll not only know what to pay, but I'll know what to charge them by looking at it through their eyes. And the average holding time that I'm going to plug into this equation is 6 months. Because experience tells me that that is a good rule of thumb to use if I intend to buy it, rehab it, sell it to consumer. Now, Robin will tell you, if you hold on to them in 6 months, you've got a big hole in your organization somewhere. Right, Robin? And she's right. But not everybody is as good as Robin, including you. So I want you to plug in 6 months. Now, if you intend to actually rehab this property, you darn sure better not get off my formula. Plug them in. I want you to look at it as if you're going to retail it. Holding costs, folks, are going to run you about 3% of the ARV. And you say, man, that's a lot of utilities I'm going to be spending on that house for 6 months, isn't it? But what about property taxes? If you're holding that property for 6 months, are you going to be accruing property taxes that are ultimately going to come out of your pocket when you sell it? Say yes, Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Okay, so believe me when I tell you, you're going to eat up 3% of that ARV in holding costs. And folks, that has nothing to do with monthly payments. That does not include interest or monthly payments.